Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess. Is this your first time here? Probably not. But if it is, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome to my channel. I know it's a little bit different of an intro, but so you've already seen the title of this video. It's like my top 10 fantasy books / series because some of these are standalones. And I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna put a timestamp. If that's literally what you came here for, you can jump to that. But I am just feeling reflective. I was gonna say I always feel yappy, but I'm feeling reflective. My birthday is on Sunday, February 23rd, as is the birthday of my twin flame, my soulmate, Nigel, my doggy. He's looking at me, but he's very sleepy, so I won't make him come over here. So as I turn 29, again, I am, it's less sadness and it's just, I feel thoughtful, reflective around this time. And this year is a little more sad because I'm alone. It's just me and Nigel. The last couple years I was fortunate enough to go on birthday trip with my bestie whose birthday is in a couple days after mine. That was not in the cards this year. So it's just a little sadder. And then there was this trend on TikTok and it was basically people saying, I met up for coffee with my younger self. Like they just typed it out. It's like, I met up for coffee with my younger self. She was late, I was early. She asked what we were up to and I proudly told her all these things. Basically like people reflecting back on like when they were younger and how their younger self would perceive their current self. And most of these I was like, I cannot relate to at all. And then I finally saw one that hit me in the chest. And she said, I can't participate in this trend because my younger self would show up on time and I would not show up at all because I'm not ready to face how much I've disappointed her. And that hit me in the chest. In all of the comments, a lot of them were saying the same, but of course there were positive ones that were like, you don't know, like your younger self would still be proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. You're here, and like all of those things. But that one, as I'm reflecting on turning 29 again, I have like mixed feelings about if that was an option. If it was an option to meet my younger self. I don't know what age people were. I'm guessing like teenage. I don't know. Even early 20s. But if I'm thinking teenage Jessica, I don't know how we would feel. I do have, pretty close to the library of my dreams that young Jessica could never have. All of these babysitter club books that I have now that I had to borrow from the library, like that's amazing. But if I think about like where I thought I would be then, obviously did not have a clue. It was a very different world at that point. Then yes, I do think that I've disappointed her. And I don't know why I felt like I wanted to share this in this video. I just was like, oh, I've never done my favorites. I want to do it as a kind of like get to know me better since it's my birthday. But I also just feel a lot of feelings. And I think being a person on the internet and a viewer of many things on the internet, it's always easy to compare yourself. That's all I do. That's all I do is compare myself to other people. And so, I always try to share where I can about mental health or different things to hopefully reach someone or make someone feel less alone. And so I just, my fellow Pisces, this is for anyone, but really my fellow Pisces, if you're feeling feelings around your birthday, another year, another rotation around the sun, and you're not where you thought you'd be, it's okay. Because there are many of us out here who feel the same way. And I know that I could be worse off. I could have done a lot of more terrible things, right? But if I find it hard to feel proud of myself for anything, I have therapy at 2 p.m. today. We'll be picking up that conversation that we were having last week about that. But I guess I'm gonna say this here out loud because I kind of believe it, but I don't, that I am proud of my channel. And the next part is very true, is that I'm very grateful for the people that I've been able to connect with and meet and create like real friendships with because of this channel. But it is hard to just feel like, you know, disappointed in yourself. So anyway, if your birthday is today or tomorrow or on Sunday with me and Nigel, or after that, happy birthday to my Pisces family. I don't know where you are in the world. It's frosty down here in the south. It usually is always cold for my birthday. I hope that at least on your day of birth, you can find some peace, relaxation, some happiness and joy. I will be eating a funfetti cake. Nigel will have his own separate cake. And you're not alone. It's a really interesting world we've inherited. Not the one our younger selves thought we would be adults in. So I guess this is for you and me to give ourselves grace. And again, happy birthday. And get you that Fountain Dr. Pepper if you need it. Now to the books. People have asked me over the years to make like a top 10 favorite books or top 10 fantasy, and I never do because one, it's that reader thing where people are like, what's your favorite book? And you're like, and then it's also partial that like, partly that, I don't know, my mind changes all the time. And sometimes I'm like, ooh, it would be this, sometimes it would be this. So as of today, at this moment, these are my top 10 fantasy books. Could change in 42 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Also on this list, there are only adult books, fantasy series. So, I mean, I guess 1 or 2 could be considered sci fantasy, but no young adult or middle grade, because then this would be different. And again, I did 10 because that seems to be like a really, a good, solid, even popular number. But there are some where I was like, special, And I don't know how to rank these. So I won't. Because I literally was trying to write it down and I was stressing myself out. Just know these are amongst my favorites, okay? So I'll just go in the order of what's on the pile. Oh, here we go. You're like, Jessica, why did you bring these? Oh, my last little asterisk caveat here is some of these are standalones and some is a series, but it's getting 1 slot. So, shh, my rules. So we have what's this called? Oh yeah, Mistborn. Mistborn Era 1. These are so annoying to get out of this box, so I just grabbed the goddamn box. Mistborn Era 1 with the Final Empire, the Well of Ascension, and Hero of Ages. I'm sure people are mad at how my books are in order in this box. I don't care. Here you go. Final Empire, Well of Ascension, Hero of Ages. I had to put this on here because I think with all of these, there are things that I think about regularly, right? I might reflect on a moment, a character, like regularly I will be thinking about these, and that's what will put them in the top. And so especially shout out goes to Tensoon and Say Sad, okay? And their people, okay? And shout out to Kelsier also. I have not read these in a while. I think I read these 2017, 2018 maybe. And the ending, nope, it's this one. The ending of the Hero of Ages. Just a great book overall. An excellent ending to a series in my opinion. I'm very picky on endings. And if you don't know, this is obviously by Brandon Sanderson. And this is like, what if the Dark Lord won? So like, what if the bad person did win? So we're coming in already after that and looking at the way society is. And we have a group of misfits. Not all misfits, but it's a group of people who normally may not work together. And yeah, coming together to try to infiltrate and try to shake shit up. And I love that trope. I love found family. I love this more than Stormlight Archive I think I'm in the minority there, that I think this is better. And the things, all of the time and depth and whatever explored in Stormlight, I would prefer with characters and people and stuff in Mistborn. So I don't think I need to say more about this pretty well-known series, but this will hold a place in my heart. And I do enjoy Era 2. I need to read the last book, but I figured since I hadn't read the last book, I wouldn't add that here. But I really do love this. Thank you. Next, who would I be if I didn't include? Sorry, she's reflective. This is one of my copies of Babel. Let's look at her. Sorry. Oh shit, I forgot how pretty this copy is. Anyway, this is by R.F. Kuang. Rebecca, my boo. Hey girl, it was hard. Spoiler alert, the Poppy War is not on here. And I'm questioning myself. See, that's why I don't be making these lists. Anyway, this is what I believe is a historical literary fantasy. So I hesitated putting this on the list because the fantasy is like, it's not as heavy as most of the ones on here, but it still is fantastical. It has magic. But just the anticipation and then the satisfaction when this met and exceeded my expectations. I love this. I love the subgenre of dark academia, especially when we're really focused on the academics, which this does. I love how she used magic with linguistics and translation, and also mixing in the themes of colonization. Come on now. Because this story, we have 4 main characters, but we're really following Robin, who he was orphaned and taken to England by a mysterious garden, and he went to Babel, which is like this institute there of language. Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation. And we're following him and the people in his cohort that he's closest to. But again, we're following their academics, so they're going through their courses, and we're learning about the magic of translation, and also just how translation works in general, like outside of a magical realm, like this applies. But also, again, through the lens of like colonization and what England was doing to all of these countries. And it is just so, because what is the alternative? Like, it's called Babel, but there's like a long, an arcane history of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. An act of translation is always an act of betrayal. I just love this. I know this was not for everyone. Some people thought it was slow. I thought it was perfection. And again, my type of dark academia, because not just being set at a school, the school and the academics are the focus. Rebecca can do no wrong in my eyes. She is yet to disappoint me. Oh, this is a newie. A newie? This is a recent read. I read this in December, but she has to be up here because I think of this all the time. And you know, maybe in some years this won't be in the top. I don't care. Right now it is. And that is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I think that maybe there's a theme here, but I love when a book can use fantasy to really talk about things in society. I think it's a fine line, because sometimes you're like, okay, like it's really heavy-handed and you're like, was it really necessary to try to cloak this in fantasy? But it's interesting when they can construct a fantasy, a magic system, excuse me, that makes sense, that's fantastical, but when you break it down, it's really like critiquing society. This is excellent. It's a standalone. It's not over 600 pages. I think character work, incredible. This is one of the best unlikable characters not just for the sake of trying to be different, not like other girls. There's a, like, her unlikableness, it makes sense. You just gotta give it a minute. That is not to say if you don't like it in the first like 50, 100 pages, whatever your DNF threshold is, to keep pushing. But I'm just telling you that if you're like, oh my God, this bitch is pissing me off, you're gonna get it. You will understand. This, we have this world, this great place with technology, and men are mages, you know, but women they're too emotional. They shouldn't be. But our main character, Siona, is like, I'm about to fight against that. I am trying to become a high mage, which is not something that they usually allow. But for some reason, her mentor is really pushing for her to get into this like high mage program, whatever it's called. And so it's in the synopsis, it's not a spoiler. She becomes a high mage, and of course, instantly is facing, you know, the mocking from her co-workers, her fellow academics, because they're all men. They're like, what are you doing here? Do you really think your mentor has your best interest? Like, you should really, you know, be pursuing something more in line with a woman's place in society. But she is very stubborn, and she's like, no, I'm destined to be a high mage. You guys are not gonna take this from me. I have research, blah, 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 right? Strong woman in science, we love. Her assistant is someone of the lower class in society. So they have their society, and then around that are these other people who try to get in. And so they're basically refugees. And of course, they're relegated to a small part of the city. They're in there cramped. They are limited to the roles they can get. They're looked down upon. And so she's having to interact with one of them for the first time in her life, and is really showing her a lot about herself and society. And this is just at first the magic I was so confused. I was like, I don't know what this is. And I kept reading. And then when I got it, I got it. And then when you realize, I was like, and then it just, and the ending, just the entire thing from page 1, because that first chapter, snatch, wig, edges gone, and it just was excellent. I think every character that we meet is written with intention and purpose. And if my one complaint would be that I wish a slow death for somebody, but other than that, this is incredible. This is art. Okay, changing a little bit, kind of, and this is probably the shortest one on this list. And I guess you could kind of, there's a lot of categories depending, but that's Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. So this is horror, but there are fantastical elements in this. We're in the 1920s in Georgia, I believe. And you obviously see who here is on the cover, but they're actual literal monsters in this story. And we're following a group. They basically are monster hunters fighting against the Klan, who are literally and figuratively monsters. This is a novella. This was perfect length. Start to finish, perfect. Still good characterization, still good plot, gripping. This is excellent. Again, like, it's not like you read this and you're like, wow, I have no idea what he means by the, you know what the, especially here in the United States, you know what the Klan is, okay? And them was just, I had never read something where they were being personified like literally as monsters. But this was just, I hesitate to say fun, because is it ever fun? But it is so rare that something encapsulates such a good story and like everything that I want out of a story in such a short length. And this is just perfect. I think about it all the time. Like, confident, razor sharp, and utterly imaginative. That is how you describe this. This was my first from this author. Still my favorite from this author. But it says, in America, demons wear white hoods. It's funny, the hoods are off now, but can she stop the Klan before it ends the world? This is chef's kiss. You should just read it. What's next? I don't know. What's this? Oh! Okay. Now, I will say this series is a favorite, but this is my favorite book from the series. This one is The Girl in the Tower. This is the second book. The first one's The Bear and the Nightingale. And the last one is The Witch in the Winter, The Winter of the Witch. Don't ask me questions like that. Ah! Anyway, this, I either love a second book or hate a second book. This is a second book that does not give middle book syndrome, okay? This from start to finish had me pressed. Okay, I love this. The Winternight Trilogy is like based on Russian folklore, and the writing is just incredible. The characters, Vasya, even if she can be frustrating, Solove, where this starts in the tower, and what happens. Again, I read this a while ago, so I can't remember everything. I just remember loving every page of this. And while I do have a little bit of issues with the pacing in the third book, I still love this trilogy overall. But I think this one is incredible. Just such beautiful descriptive writing. And there is like an underlying romance. To me, that's not the focus. And it doesn't like this, the world building, the character development, just again, where I feel like all the characters are written very intentionally. I love me a sentient animal, Solove, the horsey, just the mythology. It's just so good. And this book was an excellent installment in this series. So this is why I also hesitated to make these lists, because I'm like, some of these I've read years ago and I feel like I don't remember super detailed to like tell you specific things. I just remember my emotions, but you're gonna have to believe me that these all gave me emotions. Okay, what else? We knew Shannon had to be on here, okay? I didn't know which book to pick because I can't remember which one is my favorite. When did the last book come out? I think that was like 2020? 2020? I don't recall. I have read this one twice. I read Kingdom of Copper twice, and then the Kingdom of Empire of Gold. I've only read one time, but excellent ending to a series. Okay, but Shannon, S.H. Chakraborty, Shannon is that girl. When I read this, I had not read a lot of fantasy that was outside of like medieval Europe inspired. And so this takes place in like a magical Egypt, I think in the 1800s. Okay, excuse me. It's the 18th century Cairo. And we start out with Nari. And she's a con woman, but she also has some healing abilities, powers maybe, and basically meets a djinn and is taken to this whole world that she didn't know existed. And this was like my first time reading. Obviously I've read like stories about Egypt and stuff, but they were mostly focused on like mummies and stuff like that. So this was my first time reading about like jinn and Islam, really in the book, or any like Islamic mythology. And it was incredible. I love, again, a frustrating character, but not just like trying to be not like other girls. So many, just Jamshid and Muntandir, all of these characters are so, most of them are not just like good or bad, and I love that. And don't get me started on Dara. Dara Yabahush Iafshin, I will love you to the end of my days, and I know that some people have thoughts on that. Keep them to yourself. Anyway, excellent. See, I thought every book in the series was great, so I can't remember which one was my favorite. But if you're looking for something that's not your typical, again, like just like white man, European inspired fantasy, this is just so excellent. All of the mythical creatures and stuff. Every book I just learned more, and it's so like well written. I just see the world rise up in front of me. Like when she's seeing it for the first time, I see the cities and the walls and this would be something with the right person, me, and the right budget that could be a stunning film. Stunning. but with the right person. I don't know. You know, I don't know if that's ever gonna be a thing, but this is great. Great political machinations, great magic, mythology, characters. It's all here. Okay. We're revisiting Miss M.L. Wang because I'm so sorry if you thought this was not gonna have the Sword of Kaigen, then you don't know me. You don't know me. This was originally self-published, and then this was a Kickstarter that was done. The Sword of Kaigen. Every time I think about this book, I want to cry. This is like so interesting because you think that it's set in like older Japan, but they also have like modern technology. But we have our characters and we have this like their island, this invading force, but there's also like interpersonal familial issues going on, especially between her and her husband, and the way that, you know, he as the patriarch acts and treats them. And then there's the fighting that happens, and then learning about her past and who she was before she was a mother. Incredible. The fight scenes, one of the things that always stick out to me is because reading a lot of fantasy, you usually end up reading a lot of like, not all of them, but a lot of them have fight scenes, right? Battles, whatever, sword fights. And sometimes I tend to be skipping over that because I'd be like, all right, we get it. Not here. I was watching a movie with these in my mind. Phenomenal. I was like, oh my God. The emotion, the character work here. Phenomenal. If you read this and you don't like it, you're wrong. So deal with it. This has to be on here. This is the first in the series. Okay, I feel like I always say this wrong. It's like Riyria. I don't know. I say Riyria Revelations. This is by Michael J. Sullivan. This is the first one, Theft of Swords. There's 3 omnibuses. Technically, there's 6 books, 3 omnibuses. This is the first one. I just grabbed this one, the first one I found on my shelf. I love them all. I think that if this story, not super unique. It is European white man fantasy based, right? We have our thieves. There's kings and warring kingdoms. There's a lost somebody. There's magic. There's a journey. Okay, we have mythical creatures. For me, what shines bright, what makes me love this to this day, I think I read these in 2016, 2017, is the characters. Again, I am a character-driven person, and Royce and Hadrian are 2 of my favorite characters ever. The bromance is elite. It can't be topped in my opinion. If you say that whatever that other book that I can't think of right now is better, you're lying. I haven't read that book. I don't care. And so, and there are other characters they meet along the way. Myron, Gwen. Excellent character work. And I think that's what wins me over. That's what wins me over and makes me think of these. Now this, I have been reading his work in publication order, not chronological, because he published these first, then there's this is the Revelations. Then there's the Chronicles that he wrote after, like a prequel series. Then there's the Age of Myth that goes like, I think hundreds or thousands of years back in the world. And then he has another one that's like even before that. So I'm currently reading the Chronicles. And again, character work, impeccable, phenomenal. And then also, if you just love a classic fantasy story, I feel like you're more invested in the story and really enjoy that when you have characters that you're really invested in following. Because obviously, there's so many similar plot devices, tropes, right? But I think what really makes makes books stand out is how the author writes the characters. And I just think this is a masterclass, and I love them, especially Hadrian. I don't know, I may reread it and may think that I prefer Royce, but I love my little angry man. And I love my chivalrous man here. And they're, like I said, a thief duo. And they work together so well because Royce is like, kill first, questions later. And Hadrian's like, wait, they don't know you like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, hold on, maybe they have something good to say. And then he's proved wrong. And Royce is like, see, I told you I should have stabbed him. And he's like, okay, go ahead and stab him. It is so funny. I love it. Forever. Then we have Jade City. Now, shut up. You're like, Jessica, how did you feel about Jade? Like, shh. Okay. Jade City, my favorite. Jade War, Jade Legacy. Granted, one day I'm going to reread these. My feelings may change. But again, one where I feel like the author has such a talent for characters, and especially for like fight scenes. So good. When I'm watching them or I'm reading them, I'm watching them in my mind. But I'm so sorry. This is some of my favorite characters ever. Hilo and Andon. I don't care. The people who are like, oh, Hilo's evil, or he does these things, and shut up. This is a fantasy book. More murder. I love Hilo so much. And I love little Andon. And obviously, I have my issues with Jade Legacy. Okay? Okay? But Jade is a powerful substance in this world. Some people can yield it, some people cannot. And those who do, it basically enhances like their fighting power, speed, stuff like that. And so we have these warring gangs, essentially, like these families. And it's been going on for a long time. And now we're seeing the escalation. And it's stressful. And people are gonna die. And people are gonna get their shit rocked. And it's amazing. And I really love Jade War too. I love, Hilo is not a perfect man, okay? And I acknowledge that and I love him for it. But there's the family dynamics between siblings and then between spouses. Of course, there's different cities and different, subsects of the gangs and or they call it clans in here, and the different areas. So there's turf wars and the political scheming, and thank you, Fonda. And last but certainly not least is the 5th season. The Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This is my favorite book. I want to reread these though because I don't know the rest of my ranking between the second two, but I was intimidated to read this because it was in second person. And I remember reading the first chapter and just what the book is about, because essentially in this world where there are these massive like climate, like this is long in the in the future, but there's these massive climate things that like affect the earth that like break open craters and shit. And so I was like, don't know if I want to read that. Then reading it and to be in the second person, which I hadn't really read anything in second person, I was like, ooh, I don't know. And I pushed through. The reveals slowly starting to be like, but did she mean? I think the second two are great as well. It's a great trilogy, but nothing will be the same as when I got to the end of this book the first time and I was like, oh my damn. Yeah. So I would say this one's more sci fantasy, but again, complicated, nuanced characters. Such an interesting world. And you may say to some of these, when I read them, they were unique. They stood out to me. I still think, having read a lot, that these are still unique, still stand out. But yeah, the world, the weather events, the basically world endingness of it, the interpersonal things with her and what happened with her and her family, and then her journey and the people she meets along the way. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Makes me sad that I have not read any of these. The only one I've read recently is Blood Over Brighthaven, and then Babel in 2021, 2022. I don't remember when that came out. But the rest, it's been several years since, like, from 2017 to 2020 since I've read them. But they're in here, okay? They're deep in here. And of course, as soon as I picked these, I was like, oh, wait, should I have had? Oh, wait, it doesn't matter. No one's grading me on this list. This is not serious. This does not mean that can never change, but these are some of my favorite fantasy stories ever. And I would love to know yours. Are any of them on the list? Have you been hesitant to read any of these? Or again, just tell me your favorite fantasy stories. And yeah, again, the world is a tough place, but the horrors persist, and so do I. So anyway, happy birthday to Nigel. And yeah, stay blessed, hydrated. I forgot. Stay best. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.